Hi, welcome to the Mohua Show. My name is Mohua Chinappa and I am an author, entrepreneur, and ex-housewife. This podcast is about everything from business to technology to arts to lifestyle, but done and spoken ईमानदारी से. Hi, in today's episode we have Saba Hasan. Saba Hasan is an award-winning artist with a body of work ranging from paintings, books, sculptures, photographs to videos and sound. She has recently received the 2022 Individual Art Grant from the prestigious Pollock-Krasner Foundation, New York, which aims to advance the work of artists internationally in recognition of their excellence and contribution to contemporary art practice. She has been awarded the National Raza Award for Painting 2005 and many international fellowships. With an educational background in economics, yes, you heard me right, economics and cultural anthropology, Saba blends different mediums of art forms to explore the philosophical, conceptual, and political ramifications of the ideas of truth. So, welcome, Saba, in today's episode.
Hi, thanks for having me here. It's a pleasure.
Thank you so much. So, what got me really, really interested was this with a background in economics and then getting into art. And you speak about your ideas of truth through your work. What, according to you, is truth? I mean, is there any absolute truth that people are really talking about these days? The spiritual gyan that's being given out. What is truth according to you?
Yes, I began exploring the concept over a decade ago when I started working with books as my material. And then I recorded a video in which I discussed the notion of truth, focusing, as you said in the introduction, on its philosophical, political, and ethical aspects. But another rather well-known work on truth that you can see on Saatchi Art and my website is my 9-book installation. That comprises, as the title prompts, of 9 books which are wrapped in white cloth, and they are placed on rahels or book stands and arranged in a very peaceful, harmonious, lattice-like geometric pattern with light streaming in through a window as if in a sacred space. This installation, I think, best depicts my notion of multiple truths coexisting and eventually leading to the one absolute truth. The books are covered, so we don't know whose truth it is. But like several paths or roads, each book, each truth will eventually lead you to the same essence. I have titled this installation Sulh Kul for the Sufi Muslim principle of peace for all, universal peace. To my mind, that is the truth seeker's ultimate objective.
This is so amazing, So the way you view art is also through your entire spiritual journey as a person. So is it something that connects to the spiritual world, out of which your art comes out? Or, of course, obviously you have a very innate talent, which you've honed. Art and spirituality often go together because without that, you will not be able to go really into your inner depth, to produce any form of art. So maybe share with us an experience where you felt very, very connected to a certain experience in your life or something that made you look at all of your installations and your work through the spiritual eyes, of Sufism.
Well, I have looked at the concept and have also used different media and art because, yes, it is spiritual. But like, for instance, in my video, which is called Haqiqat, which is the Urdu or the Arabic word for reality. So the video is called Haqiqat La Verite, which means that not only spirituality, but reality can also equip you to address the concept of truth. And here in this video, I have centered the discourse around the idea of haqiqat, raising real questions, like, for instance, how does power determine what truth is? It could be political power, it could be individual power within a family structure or social traditions. So, do historians, anthropologists, psychologists, do they reveal truths, or do they perhaps construct them from their own subjective points of view? So, in the video, I speak to experts from several fields. One was an environmentalist, Dunu Roy. The other was the writer, Geeta Hariharan, and a linguist, Peggy Mohan. They discuss the idea of truth from different perspectives, different fields that they come from. So, truth is a complex thing, and as is art. Art, I think, for me, primarily is a way of being free. It's about creating your own visionary space, which leads to deeper truths. And these truths, for me, are the essence of human connections with each other, as well as with other living beings, a connection with nature, and of course, the higher spirit, the chi or the force of life. So, yes, for me, art is definitely a spiritual search. But it doesn't matter that it doesn't mean that art will not question or attempt to disrupt power equations, to delve into what I call hakikat, to intervene, to disturb, or even to offer hope within the current living context. The postmodern theory around this asserts a certain diversity, placing emphasis on identity, race, gender in art. And for those of us who were born into a colonial world, your generation, my generation, these are of great significance because they lead to our empowerment. But as we gain these rights and as we find our voices, we might be able to see that art in the end cuts across all these barriers, all these structural human divides, like race or religion. And it strives to embrace things which are less tangible, more universal, like music. I think art is a beautiful, powerful, highly complex lived experience, a felt lifelong practice for us. That is why usually the older artist, I suppose, is perhaps considered to be more seasoned.
Yes, I completely agree with you. जब आपने जो वर्ड इस्तेमाल किया है हकीकत की, तो हकीकत जो है उसके साथ ही आर्ट का जन्म होता है, because without that one can't divorce art and the reality that we all live in. But coming back to, obviously there must have been some inspiration from you, from some philosopher or a person that you may have met. Is there any reference that really keeps coming back to you? Like for me, whenever I sit down and write, the people I really strive to would be Kemu, when you read his book and you realize that there's so much one can look into existential angst and all the
Oh,
other.
yes.
Yeah,
Oh,
so so there must have been someone who also is always a reminder for you. Is there anybody that
Anybody, there's like an army of people throughout my
Yes, of
life. I
course, I'm
mean, I'm,
sure. What is the top of the mind recall of
well,
of a philosopher?
immediately, if one talks about painting or what people, what everyone thinks of the artist to be, then I think my favorite painter is the Dutch painter Van Gogh.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Another who is a little more like me in the sense that she is a multimedia artist is Cuban American artist called Ana Mendieta. Now, Van Gogh needs no introduction. A lot
Totally.
of his life and work has been converted into books and films. Um, in fact, his tragedies have often been, put down and to sort of enhance his work. But that aside, for me, he's not tragic at all, but a very knowledgeable, very compassionate, extremely spiritual person. His works are very small in size, in contrast to the spectacle that artworks and installations strive to be today. His paintings are tiny, actually, but every brushstroke is visible. not one is extra or redundant. And together they somehow magically, swiftly build up into a very powerful, chromatic sort of jewel. I remember during my art residency in Paris, I went to a small town called Auvers. It's where Van Gogh died and he's buried. So I went to his grave and to his room, his last room, and that chair that he paints quite
Yes.
often. I saw all
Yeah.
that. And even in the last few months of his life, he was like just furiously, making works, and he had very little money, so the size was small. But the passion, the connection with with nature, with the compassion in our relationships with each other, all that comes across so powerfully in his work that I really find it extremely moving.
Me too.
And
The more you
and
talk to me, I'm getting the goosebumps because, my father recommended the book Lustful Life to me.
yeah,
And I was very young at that time because,
yeah,
it's
yeah.
only now, the older I grow, that you realize that that
Hmm.
search that he had was all the time something
Yeah.
that kept him going.
Yes.
And
Yes.
difficulty is something that we often look at it as a problem, but I don't think
Yes.
it's a problem. It's always an
Yes.
opportunity for innate
Yes.
ability inside you to really go out there and,
Yes.
yeah, and find your entire spiritual connection. And if you're an
Absolutely.
artist, it's one of the best things that can happen to you.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely. I totally agree. I mean, sometimes it is made out to be so tragic that you would think that there is, in a way, that person is incapacitated or something. But actually, you realize that it's that entire force of the person's being and talent can get expressed anyhow.
Absolutely. So right now,
Yeah.
with my father being extremely unwell, I'm taking mental
Yes.
notes because, when
Yes.
people
Yes.
really go into their own shell and they don't recognize themselves, this is another journey, right? And as a
Yes.
writer, there's so much that is being exchanged between him and me in our silences. But coming
Yeah.
back to art, do you think India is a mature art market? Because I and of course there's abstract art. When you talk to people, they don't understand, and I too find it very difficult to understand abstract art. um, it seems it's which the art that's really popular remains in a very conformed space. Do you agree with
Hmm.
that?
Hmm. 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 I do. I do. I do. Can I just, before we move on, taking this from situations which are difficult, and how people, and particularly you will find in art history that women have been able to break on through to the other side. So I don't want to just leave it at a Van Gogh, but I would like to mention here a few of my other favorites. As I said, one is Ana Mendieta, but then there are some scholars and philosophers. One being a woman from Tunisia, most unexpected for most people, because they usually associate the West with the knowledge. But she was the founder of the first university in the world. Like, a university did not exist before. Fatima Al Fahri decided to spend her inheritance and found a university and a library in Fez, in Morocco. I saw this when you were talking about
My God, this
experiences.
is
I mean,
amazing.
yeah,
I've
I,
been to
I went to
Morocco and
that
I didn't know.
university. Yes, and you can imagine. I mean, knowledge is a big thing among Muslims, and women have always been at the fore. And today, there are just so many movements where women and their attempt to study is being marginalized. But it is a very old tradition among women to study, to found libraries, to collect books, to build universities. And so I just wanted to mention Fatima Al-Feri because I'm a huge fan of hers. And though she wore a hijab, she really did not conform to what people have as stereotypes. And there have been many women, I mean, even difficult subjects like philosophy. There has been a Greek mathematician called Hypatia. I discovered her actually through a cinema. You know, I saw a Spanish film called Agora, and I came to know about Hypatia, who lived in Alexandria, and she was, I mean, a very, very successful, well-respected philosopher and mathematician. At a time when women in Greece and Egypt were, usually kept in the domestic sphere. So yes, I mean difficulties can create very inspiring situations and people. As for the art market, I frankly, maybe people will throw stones at me, but yes, India is not mature enough as far as the art market goes. Most artists, especially abstract artists, have to find success outside India before they're recognized here. So, with most art, with people who buy art or look at art here, literal interpretations or mythical references are much more popular. And our education system is also more rote. It's geared towards very few professions. We don't inculcate a depth of understanding through teaching liberal arts, dance, design, film, music. This leaves people completely out of touch with their sensitive, humane side. While life is all about, how much do you earn, what marks did you get. So I think intelligence or aesthetics, if linked to degrees, grades, certificates, I mean, that's a very Indian concept, and it restricts generations of people from, I think, being actually intelligent, curious, creative, imaginative. So, I mean, how can you expect such a population to develop an understanding of art? It's not happening.
So, Saba, the more I speak to you, I do realize that, there's so much of depth inside you. Artists are known to be ill-fated in relationships, because they're either so intense or they it will just cut off, and nothing can bring them back sometimes, because there's such a the world of black and white they live in, and there's very less space for gray. With artists who are really true to their calling. Do you think it's true?
I am really, when I just heard your question, and I am really surprised and quite curious as to why you think that artists are any more ill-fated than other people.
It's just looking back at the history of people, and reading about artists across generations. And when you're, for me, like, exactly, you spoke about Van Gogh, and you talk about Amrita Pritam, and so many more people. They've always been searching for something that was probably very difficult to find. And sometimes you think that a relationship may be able to fill up a certain void. And like, we go back to that conversation, that difficulty brings out a whole lot of a spectrum within your own work or your body of art. So it's a question that I'm asking. Do you think there's some truth in this?
No, I don't think artists, however much we might like the halo around our heads, I don't think we are in any which way more special or more damaged, or better off, or just deeper than other people. I think art, it's. They say like a baby chooses its. I'm of course speaking from my personal experience and the friends I have. They say a baby chooses its parents, and well, for free thinking, unyielding, rebellious people like you or me. I think we were born to parents who had the bandwidth to deal with those traits, and we have become those parents who have the bandwidth to deal with those traits in case our children are like
Absolutely.
that. And I have, I mean, for instance, I lived in boarding schools abroad since the age of 6. Picking up languages, literature, cinema, just picking up diverse cultures in my stride. And yes, at times I have felt, and other artists perhaps have felt, a bit of outsiders, but that's a part of I think life when you are looking for independence, when you are looking for freedom of expression, when you come across barriers which do not seem to accommodate your vision. That's okay. I mean, you if you are born with that, then you are born with the strength to deal with it.
Oh my God, this is something that's going to stay with me. That if you are born with that vision and people are around you and you feel lonely, one should learn to live with the vision and take it forward.
With the vision, and your central
Absolutely.
expectations of relationships are in any case what? I mean, love, honesty, loyalty, trust, and
Integrity.
the rest will naturally follow. I mean, I think we human beings are like Labradors.
Totally. I have a very hungry Labrador at home. He's always hungry. So,
I mean, fate and destiny, of course, but from experience, I can say that relationships need a lot of nurture and making allowances, for your own and other people's vulnerabilities. So to always expect the other to make it happen is not fair, is it?
not at all. Not at all. Not at all. Absolutely not. Yeah, I think the whole thing in relationships that most, so many interviews I've done till now, it's the idea of fairness, because gender also is still needs so
Yes,
much more
yes,
unlearning, for society, to
yes,
understand that a woman is an equal individual with equal vulnerability,
yes.
equal will to live, equal sexual desire, equal wish to express. And, once that fairness comes in treating one another, I think, relationships will be healthier.
Absolutely, and I
Hmm.
remember we had spoken about this, how, as many women artists as there are men artists. And I thought this was a very good question because in India, it might seem that there are a lot of successful women, but it does not mean that there is not a glass ceiling for us. And it does take twice the effort, twice the work, and society definitely has some kind of traditional expectations from us in terms of how we tackle we can go out only if we can tackle the domestic sphere. So yes, I mean, for women it is much harder, and there are so many predetermined roles that we have to redefine.
Absolutely. Now, coming back to the Pollock-Krasner grant, what is the criteria to get the grant, and how do you plan on utilizing this, Saba? You must tell the listeners, among them, there are many artists who would obviously
Yes, yes,
be
I would
inspired
actually
with your
encourage.
journey.
Yes, 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 yes. I would actually encourage people to apply for this, especially at a later stage in their careers, because it's a very generous grant, and it's essentially given out on a basis of your the work that you have done, your artistic practice, and how committed you are to your work. And all the other selection processes and everything are completely transparent. They're available online at the Pollock-Krasner Foundation. And I would really, I agree with you. I would suggest that a lot of artists apply for this and other grants which are available abroad. They come in quite handy for independent artists like me who want to continue working, but we want to do it unencumbered by the market. Sometimes you want to do work which may not necessarily be very saleable right now. It will come in handy. Then, as far as my own intention is concerned, I'm really happy and grateful to the Pollock-Krasner Foundation that I got this. And I will just continue my work. I'm not expected to do anything different. I will continue my work on my sculptures, mixed media paintings, video installations. And now that I have completed 28, 29 years of art practice, I am preparing also for a major publication on my work for this period.
Wonderful. And before I end today's podcast, I just want to quote out of a source from the International Women's Day on gender gap in the art industry. It says, Picasso, Da Vinci, Rembrandt, when one is asked to name great artists through history, these names usually come to our mind. But ask someone to name female artists, and the question poses more of a challenge. For centuries, art has been a male dominated field, and even though there's a bigger presence of women in art today, opportunities seem to still tilt towards their male peers. So, to be able to train as an artist, you make your way in the world, as it was very difficult for a woman to be a professional artist, particularly with societal expectations which continue even today. It's quoted. This is quoting Kim Jones, curator of the 19th century paintings of the US National Gallery of Art. It says, the report, that in 2014, Georgia O'Keeffe sold a painting for almost $45 million, setting a record for an artwork by a female artist. But that's nothing compared to Leonardo da Vinci's Salvator Mundi, which sold in 2017 for $450 million, the highest price ever achieved for artwork sold at auction. Work by Mary Cassatt, a popular painter in the 19th century, also fetches a lot less than a fellow impressionist, Claude Monet, at auctions. So yes, there's so much of reality in the gender gap in the art industry. But with artists like Saba Hasan, we know that we are paving a way forward for
Thank you.
the next, for the next generation of so many girls who are sometimes discouraged from taking on art in their homes. And this is a conversation that will really help them embrace something that they are born to do. Thank you so much, Saba, for being on today's episode.
I will be really happy if that happens. And thank you very much. Thank you, Mohua. This has been a pleasure.
To you, our dearest listeners, you can find us on your favorite streaming services, Spotify, Amazon Music, Apple Podcast, and of course on all other major streaming services. With loads of love, we are The Mohua Show, where we talk imandari se.